Greetings, fellow gamers. This is darkfireslide, and welcome to a topical video that I've been meaning to do for a little bit now that has happened as the result of a couple of thoughts that have popped up in my mind over the past couple of weeks. Recently, I introduced my girlfriend to Skyrim. Now, this wouldn't really be that big of an issue if she hasn't played video games in her entire life, which she basically hasn't in she's now in her mid 20s, and the first game she's really played at length is the game Stardew Valley. Um, and thinking about that, it's really interesting because of a couple of things that arose as a result of this difference between somebody like me who's played video games all his life and somebody who hasn't played video games like at all ever. So so let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the things that we take for granted when it comes to gaming compared to people who haven't had the opportunity to really play video games as much, or have only are only recently learning it. Because I think it actually brought to my mind a couple of thoughts that I hadn't really had before, and helping me understand design decisions in video games. So first of all, one of the most interesting things that came to the forefront is that she commented on. She says, "Well, I don't really like violence in games. I don't really want to play a violent game." And after pouring through, 130 games in my Steam library, I only really found one that didn't have violence as one of its key features, and that game was Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley, of course, is a game about farming and just raising livestock, growing plants, collecting money to do the same, and making friends with the local villagers. It's a very compelling game, and it's a great experience. I highly recommend it to anyone who is into that sort of thing and is looking for a, well, relaxing game, honestly. Now, that being said, eventually I started talking to her about the game, this game, Skyrim. And, at first she was worried. She's like, well, I don't really like the look of it from watching you play it. It's got a lot of, fighting in it, and I'm not really about that. If I did play, though, she said I'd like to be more of like a sneaky thief type. And I said, okay. So I got her set up to play it, and one of the most interesting things was just how confusing playing with WASD can be to somebody who hasn't really, played on a mouse and keyboard setup before, and that made me think wow, how controllers are actually really intuitive, and that's something I never think about with consoles. I'm so familiar with the commands and controls in PC that it never really occurred to me that hey, having joysticks, especially in a game like Skyrim, where there's one stick for movement and one stick for moving the camera, that this would really be an issue. So that was something I didn't think about. So it took her a while to really understand the controls, and this is understandable because she hasn't really played games for her whole life, and so it's like learning to ride a bike all over again, right? Now, all of this being said, she eventually did start playing and got into it and got through the tutorial in Skyrim, which is, admittedly a really, really boring part of the game. But she made it through, and the thing is, she's like, I don't really know if this is my game. So the next time we hung out, I showed her this character at level 30 or so, and I had a dragon priest mask, and for those who are familiar with Skyrim, there are these really ancient epic masks and stuff, and you know I got her. She was like, "Oh, that looks really cool," and I was like, "Well, if you," I was like, "I told you, if you play a little bit more and really get into the game, then you'll start to understand." But the thing is, she can only play when she comes over to my place to, look at the game and play it. So she's playing once or twice a week, basically, and that's it. Whereas I can play whenever I get home, whenever, I feel like it on my days off. I can just spend the whole day playing games, that sort of thing. Um, and she doesn't have that luxury. So every time she comes back to the keyboard, she's having to basically relearn all the controls, and that's something I just never really considered. Wow, she has to spend all this time trying to remember controls, basically it's like a once a week class or something almost. And so not having that convenience is also a really big thing when it comes to modern games, and something that, again, with the controller that would be really useful would just be having that ability to really, you know, not have to remember things so fervently, I guess. But then she started playing for real, and she took on the first quest in Skyrim here, where you have to go into the barrow to find that shopkeeper's golden claw. The one I'm talking about. Part of the you eventually go there one way or the other, either for the main quest or for that side quest in the town of Riverwood. And she killed somebody for the first time. She drew her bow and she snuck up very slowly, very carefully, and and she killed. She got the kill, and it had like the kill cam and everything. That made it really epic to look at, and she was like super impressed with this too. She's like, this is awesome. I really want to do this. I want to see this more. And so it was really funny because she started out wanting to do, like, oh, I want to play this. I want to play this sneaky thief kind of character, and then suddenly she's like, I want to be an assassin. Like, this is really cool. And so, just thinking about that, like, it's really funny, like watching her make that change. And so it was just really interesting, like seeing her and her reactions to everything, more or less, and trying to like discern, like, what are the things that like new players look for in games. And one of the things that I really noticed, like, almost immediately, was how much she like talked to people. And this is something that has kind of been, bred out of myself, just kind of out of impatience. In games, that's something I'm just so used to talking to people. Like I'll skip through dialogue. I won't mention side options because I don't want to like take up too much time. I just want to get on to the next thing. And maybe that's more of a reflection on me and how I play games. And maybe I'm just like an impatient person. But for other veterans of the series, like, maybe you can relate to me that, like, hey, like as I play more and more RPGs, I just forget that, like, talking to people is like a thing, because that's certainly something that's happened to me. Like, I go in, I talk to people, I'm like, oh well, he's obviously got a quest, so I'll help him. But most of the time I'm just like, I just want to wander around and do random things, or only do main quests that I already know exist. And that's because I have so many hours in this game, whereas she is still new. She still talks to everyone. She gets angry when she sees somebody random on the street and she can't talk to that person. Like, for example, she was going through Riften, and she found a wood elf, and she got really excited because she's like, oh, it's another wood elf, and maybe we can bond over our brotherhood, and got really disappointed when she couldn't actually talk to that person. And so that's something that's just like, I never really like thought to play a character that way. I always think in terms of, like, stats, for example, rather than things like, well, what does my character want to do? What kind of things could I be looking for? Like, that sort of thing. And that's just stuff that I never really think about, really. And so it's just been really cool, kind of watching her play this game and like trying to navigate it as somebody who's never really played a game, or had the opportunity to play one regularly. And what are your guys' experience with the subject? What have you introduced somebody to games, and like how did that go? Do you get impatient with them, or is it like fascinating to like watch them try to like navigate the game even though they have like no idea what they're doing? And I mean, of course, she is like a complete and total noob. Of course, every time something attacks her, she she kind of panics. She's like, oh shit, like I gotta open my menu and like get my proper weapon out and like all this other shit. And every time she sneaks around, she's very cautious. She moves very slowly, whereas when I sneak around, I know my way around the controls so well that I'm practically always moving full speed when I sneak, which gets me caught a lot in situations where she actually isn't getting caught. And so in one way, as a stealthy character, she's almost kind of playing better than I am, and that's just, like, to me, like, super interesting to think about. But anyway, I've rambled on for long enough. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and whether or not you want to see more discussion, topical videos like this in the future. The thing, and I know this is quite a departure from EU4, which is the kind of content I normally make, but I wanted to do something different, and that's honestly because of kind of a shift in the channel that I want to make personally. And that may be like scary to hear for some of the longtime viewers of the channel, but I really I want to open up the more discussions and things like that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Did you like the style of this video? Did you like the format? Did you do you like the discussion? And of course, if you did, be sure to leave your own stories of like teaching new people to play and if they've been positive or negative experiences. I'm really curious to know. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Until next time, Godspeed, you brave souls, and I'll see you on the next one.